Joy got up that morning with swollen eyes and a terrible headache and was about taking a drastic decision. For close to 2 weeks now she's been crying herself to sleep, being inconsolable since her last breakup. 4 successive heartbreaks, she thought. If it's just to be hurt at the end, then I'll better stay away from this love thing. Did you see Joy's decision? That sounds sad, right? She decided to close her heart to love for fear of being hurt. And that's how many of us react in such situations. Whether in business, in our vision, in our ministries, in academics, or in relationships, in the face of failure, we tend to close ourselves to any other opportunity. We settle in our shell and avoid trying again. All this because we're afraid to fail again. Though this may look like an effective protection mechanism, it's in reality and sadly a self-caging and stagnation program. I hope this message succeeds in bringing you to this reality and empower you to get out of that cage. Let's first see what is fear of failure in itself. Fear is defined as an emotional experience in anticipation of a pain or danger. Now, a failure is an event that doesn't accomplish its intended purpose. Failure is the lack of success. So, when we talk of fear of failure, we're talking of being afraid of the pain of lack of success. Also, we want to avoid the self-degrading feeling that comes with failure. We want to avoid people thinking negatively about us or criticizing us. It mostly results from repeated failure experiences or fear of disappointing people. So we decided to stay in our own comfort zone. We avoid taking risks and we go for the easy things. Fear of failure draws a circumferential line around you and keeps you on the same path. That's why I call it a stagnation program. It dictates how far you should go, determines all the great things you shouldn't try to accomplish, and the good things you shouldn't try to enjoy. Fear of failure might lie in our subconscious, but its effects are very visible in our day-to-day life. A student who is always reluctant to raise his hand in class to answer a question, even when he has the correct answer, is afraid of failure. A man who is full of ideas that will grow his business but is always reluctant taking the first step and making the necessary investments is afraid of failure. A woman who's been on a job she hates for 10 years and has always dreamed of creating her own company but won't take the bold step towards her dream is afraid of failure. Do you want to be free from this fear? If your answer to the previous question is yes, then we may proceed to the next step, which is to know how. Before I continue, I need you to understand that you get your freedom mainly through a mind transformation. This is because the limitation is mostly mental than anything else. The cage is in your mind, and only you can set yourself free. Number 1. Understand that failure is part of the process. You are human. You are prone to mistakes. You are not a robot perfectly built to perform every activity perfectly well. John Maxwell, in his book How High Will You Climb, says, "Very little comes out right the first time. Failure, repeated failure, are fingerprints on the road to achievement." Most of times we only celebrate great men when they've reached the top. We fail to see how they suffered, stumbled, and rose up again and again, failed and kept on trying. Consider the lives of Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Bill Gates, Manny Pacquiao, or Edward Fulaya. Understand what I mean. These are people who failed blatantly but ended up on top. You may not even go that far. Perhaps in your close environment, you know someone who, after many failures, succeeded in doing something significant that took her life ahead. Even the Holy Scriptures gives room for mistakes. Proverbs 24 verse 16 says, "For a just man falleth 7 times, and riseth up again." That you fell doesn't mean you should remain on the ground. Rise up again. It's part of the process. Settle it in your mind. Number 2. Real failure is when you give up. Do you know how a young lion learns to hunt? If you observe, you'll realize that no matter how much it fails, it keeps on trying. And no matter how many times it may have failed, at the end, when it has a mastery of it, it becomes a success. And its past failures are no longer taken into account. It doesn't matter how many times you stumble during a competition. When at the end you win the prize, you are called a winner. Therefore, I believe you become a failure only when you decide to give up and stop trying. To accept failure as final is to be finally a failure. So what you should be afraid of is not failure, but rather to end up as a failure. I therefore urge you, determine not to end up as a failure. All the great successes of today are those who refused to give up yesterday. It might not be easy, but keep your eyes on the prize. If you really want it, then I know you won't give up.